Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I like to discuss the options that have always faced Brexiteers when it came to customs arrangements and Northern Ireland, and what Boris Johnson and Michael Gove may possibly be intending to do about the insoluble conundrum that they've set themselves. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So in order to explain the choices that Brexiteers had in managing Northern Ireland and customs areas, I'm going to refer to this quite excellent graphic actually from an academic from a university in America, R. Daniel Kellerman. And it shows the three promises that were attempted by the Conservatives under both Theresa May and Boris Johnson. It is, of course, impossible to achieve all three promises, which we'll go over before moving on to what Johnson and Gove may be doing in attempting to avoid the blame for this. So the three promises first. 1. Brexit means leaving the single market and customs union. Of course, that wasn't an integral part of Brexit until Theresa May made it so, but that was a promise given. And this was pushed by both Theresa May and, of course, Boris Johnson, which is why it's now happened, despite both being philosophically against the prospect. This promise was kept in Boris Johnson's withdrawal agreement, but not in Theresa May's, though she tried to claim that at some unspecified point in the future it would be. Because this was the nature of the backstop, it would mean remaining, the whole UK remaining in the customs union, the common customs area with the EU, until such time as we had some procedures in place to be able to cope, which of course, I mean, you can't rule it out at some point in the future, but there was nothing on the horizon. The second promise was no border inside Ireland. Now, that would of course be a breach of the Good Friday Agreement, attract international condemnation and make a right mess inside Northern Ireland as well. Both Theresa May and Boris Johnson's withdrawal agreement allowed this promise to be kept. And then the third promise was no border between Britain and Northern Ireland. Now, this promise was kept in Theresa May's withdrawal agreement, but not in Boris Johnson's. However, in a reversal of promise 1, Boris Johnson also claims that this promise will be kept at some unspecified point in the future. So in terms of why it's not possible to keep all three promises, it comes down to borders. Now, Brexiteers love borders, so they say, and yet the only way their brains can accept the baffling nonsense that is Brexit is to say that actually borders shouldn't exist at all. Borders need to simultaneously be really tight and not exist at all. This is something that cannot be stated enough. In one breath, they say how important it is to enforce tight borders and also how important it is to not control our borders at all, because that's exactly what Johnson and Gove seem to think they can do to keep all three promises. They don't want any control over people or goods entering or exiting Britain as long as it's via Northern Ireland. I mean, what's the difference? Oh no, we must control the border we have with France, but not at all with Northern Ireland. What? How does that work? So literally, we must control very carefully people coming into the country from everywhere apart from North Wales or North West England. But anyway, borders. So the Good Friday Agreement was basically a fudge that allowed people in the very divided population of Northern Ireland to be able to behave as if they were a fully integrated part of the UK, which is fairly easy because legally that was the case, but also to allow those same citizens to behave as if they were almost a fully integrated part of a united Ireland. Obviously no direct voting for the Irish Parliament, I suppose. And you could move around, you could live and work in Britain, no problem at all. That was fine, part of the UK. But you could also do the same in the Republic of Ireland. You could get a UK passport, or you could get an Irish passport, or both. You could squint your eyes and sort of pretend to be whatever sort of Ireland you wished to be in. But it was all, like I say, a bit of a fudge. And it worked because being part of such a comprehensive common customs area allowed it to work from a practical point of view. It worked. But leaving that common customs area created a huge problem. In fact, in terms of the aims of the Good Friday Agreement, I've never understood how it's possible to have left that common customs area and still keep even the spirit of the agreement. See, I look at, everyone seems quite happy with the Northern Ireland Protocol internationally, that it maintains the Good Friday Agreement. I'm not entirely sure it does. You know, because we've got two different customs areas, that means you need a customs border between them. It's really that simple. Two different areas with different sets of rules and standards. Now, rules and standards are not rules and standards unless they're policed. And they can't be policed unless someone's checking and monitoring. That's what your border is. So if the entire UK came out of the customs area, that custom border has to be between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, inside Ireland. And there was no debate about this. This would have been a clear breach of the Good Friday Agreement. Absolutely clear. It would also be 100% the fault of the UK government because their action would have necessitated it. Regardless of who actually carried out checks there, who threw up a border post, not that it should be an issue who carries out checks because international rules demand that both sides of the border carry out checks on their own side. But this isn't just a slap in the face to the Good Friday Agreement. If this happened, people would be hurt. People would be killed, in fact. It's that simple. So the alternative is that you split the UK up into two different customs areas. Northern Ireland remains in the EU's customs area, at least for goods, and Britain exits and forms its own. And this is what Johnson went for, but here's where it's getting dangerous. So one, Johnson doesn't seem to be keeping his word. As Maros Sefcovic's letter made clear this week, I talked about it yesterday, the UK government are not implementing the necessary checks, as well as bureaucracy data sharing needed to maintain it. And the reason that it represents a broken promise is Boris Johnson promised that there would be a customs border up the Irish Sea over his dead bodies. That's what he said. It's not what he agreed to in writing, in a treaty, but it's what he said. But then he also said he'd rather be dead in a ditch than facilitate a request for a Brexit extension in October 2019, and then did it anyway. Johnson also said that there would be no paperwork needed for passing goods between Britain and Northern Ireland. So implementing these things, which he's now done, sort of, is a broken promise. He broke that promise, but he'd still like to say that he intends to unbreak it very soon. So the second problem is now that the withdrawal agreement is based on an agreement to operate a border inside the UK in a particular way. The EU, so I was asked a question, this is what prompted this. They were saying, well, can the EU, do something? They can't really do anything, can they? They can't carry out the checks necessary because that border is not inside the EU. This is a customs border with the EU where neither side belongs in EU territory. So if we take, for example, the new coronavirus variant scare last December, France closed its borders to Britain. It could do that because France is on one side of the UK-France border and the UK is on the other. That's normally how borders work. But Brexit stops everything working. Everything is upside down with Brexit because when it comes to the UK-Ireland border, the UK is on both sides of it. So if the UK government repeatedly fail to implement the necessary customs arrangements as they promised, the EU can't just go up and close their side of the gate or tighten up their side of the border, because their side of the border, they have no control over it. Now, it's this that the DUP, who are the extremist unionist party in Northern Ireland, clearly want. They're loving this at the moment. They're not bothered if this necessitates a hard border being set up between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. In fact, it's not just that they're not bothered, they'd actively welcome it. There are also those on the very far right of this already pretty far right Conservative Parliament that would do the same. The question is, are Johnson and Gove intending this? Because certainly, let's imagine they were. If you were to say, well, if we look at their current actions, it wouldn't be any different. So their actions look, that's why a lot of people think that this is what they intend, because if you look at their actions, it's like, yeah, it looks like they intend to do this. But what will they think about the national and international consequences? Or is it that they just don't have a plan at all? I mean, look at the way they've arsed up our coronavirus pandemic response without ever having a long-term plan. In fact, earlier on, there's been a video today, get the order right, you fool, where I've been talking about another policy that's been in planning for like a year that's gone wrong almost immediately. You know, perhaps what looks like an attempt to renege on all the promises that they had to make in order to get their Brexit. Well, now that they've got their Brexit, nothing can reverse it, at least not with them in power. Maybe they're just thinking, that this is nothing more than just the result of dithering. Maybe it's not malicious intent. Like we know Boris Johnson is a procrastinator. He just does nothing when he doesn't know what to do, and mostly he doesn't know what to do. So it may not be out of design, just a consequence of not knowing how to get all the impossible things that he promised. But that is the situation as it is now. It doesn't matter whether it's incompetence or malicious intent. At the moment, the end result is much the same. It's very dangerous. That being said, I don't detect major alarm from the EU Commission at the moment. And I think there would be if they believed that this is what they were doing. I think what I register at the moment is just deep suspicion. That might suggest that they don't believe that the government would just tear up the Northern Ireland Protocol, albeit without telling someone this time, but maybe they aren't sure. But anyway, let me know your thoughts below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.